I've known Melba Tolliver for many years. She is truly a remarkable lady who has had a truly remarkable career. She is a pioneer and an iconic African American in the highly competitive field of television journalism. She has been a role model for a generation of black television journalists who followed her lead. She was born in Akron, Ohio, into a small family. After high school, she came to New York. She enrolled in the New York University Bellevue School of Nursing. She graduated with honors. However, she began to realize that nursing was not exactly the career that she wanted. So she took acting lessons on the side. And she competed in the Miss New York is a Summer Festival contest. In 1967, she switched from nursing to television. She became a secretary at ABC. On short notice, she was asked to anchor a 5-minute network television afternoon news program. I'm sure that she did it with poise, style, and grace. And she became the first black female television news anchor woman in American history. Her instant success on that one little show launched her remarkable TV career. After a custom-fitted training program, she became a full-time reporter for WABC-TV, Channel 7, Eyewitness News. And in those days, when we saw the rarity of a black person on television, we called our family and our friends. I met Melba in 1972 at the Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism. She participated in a panel discussion of black journalists. I was studying for my master's degree. We had no crystal ball. Neither of us could see the future. But as Rick Blaine said to Louis Renault in Casablanca, that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. 4 years later, in early 1976, I joined WABC-TV. I was the producer of the public affairs program Like It Is. Melba co-hosted the show with Gil Noble. It was a truly great experience for me. We produced shows with Gordon Parks, Kathleen Cleaver, and many others. We even made the front page of the Daily News for a program on education with school's Chancellor Irving Anker. Nevertheless, in the fall of 1976, I accepted a scholarship from the University of Michigan Law School. My dear darling wife, Damali, and I packed up our 2 children, packed up all of our worldly possessions, and we all headed out to Ann Arbor. And to paraphrase Rick's immortal words to Sam in Casablanca, of all the campuses, of all the colleges in all the world, she walks into mine. Melba, also in the fall of 1976, went to Ann Arbor for a fellowship from the National Endowment for the Humanities. She was at the University of Michigan School of Journalism. Talk about a small world. In 1979, after law school, I went to work for NBC Sports. Guess who was co-anchoring the evening news for WNBC-TV when I walked into 30 Rockefeller Plaza? Melba. Of all the television stations in all the towns in all the world, well, you get it. Needless to say, our paths have crossed often. Melba went on to create and host WNBC-TV's Meet the People. She returned to Michigan for a visiting professorship. She also has worked at Pratt Institute and the College of Old Westbury. And in my opinion, she is a wonderful, smart, and elegant lady. We worked on some great shows together at Like It Is. At Michigan, we saw a football game at the Big House. And I attended the Kerner Plus 10 conference on minorities in the media that Melba co-directed. And at NBC, we both experienced the Byzantine world of corporate America. Melba and I later worked on a couple of other projects together. And I still say that if the top guy at RCA had listened to us in 1980, perhaps knew music videos by top musical artists sold on RCA's video discs instead of $34 movies, would have kept RCA's now extinct video disc system from ruining the company, which was then NBC's corporate parent. Perhaps we would have changed the music business. RCA would have gotten the jump on Viacom's MTV and VH1 and also BET. RCA could have sold music video compilations to the public on RCA video discs. Later, RCA could have licensed those music videos to MTV and VH1 and BET. In fact, perhaps RCA would have bought out GE instead of the other way around. Well, who can say? At least we tried. In any event, I am very proud to call Melba Tolliver my colleague and my friend. She has a record of being a hardworking, resourceful, and insightful journalist, and I can't wait to read her memoir. She richly deserves this award, and I am very proud to present it to her. Ladies and gentlemen, with the utmost respect and deep admiration, I hereby present this illustrious award from SUNY Empire State College to its truly distinguished alumna, Ms. Melba Tolliver.
Oh, hello, everybody. Isn't he terrific? And he was such a fabulous producer for Like It Is. He sort of treated that part of his journey lightly, but he was a very serious, and still is, a very serious man. He brought a lot of distinction to Like It Is. We did some terrific programs, and a lot of it is due to Hwesu. I should have started this speech back in the green room because it probably is going to be a bit longer than the time that we were allotted, which was 5 minutes, which to me is laughable because I don't see how I could have really done very much of what I wanted to do this evening in 5 minutes. And I had this idea driving in here from Pennsylvania that, you know, maybe I should start the speech at the end because then I would get in something that's a part of it that's very important to me. And I did consider maybe starting at the end and moving forward to the beginning of it, but I'm going to take my chances, and if Maureen comes out with the hook, then I'll just have to go. In fact, when Maureen called me about this award and about this evening, my first impulse was to say, heck no, I don't really want to be there receiving an award. I haven't done anything that's all that spectacular. And when you consider the wonderful talent that has graduated and continues to be students at Empire State College, I know there are people who are more worthy than I am of receiving an honor for their distinguished work. And I also hesitated because I couldn't think of what I might say to you this evening, standing on this stage in this particular building, that would be worthwhile. Cooper Union is in itself a great story, one of significant history, especially to people in New York. And in this great hall where presidents from Abraham Lincoln to Barack Obama have discussed and debated important issues of the day, from ending slavery to the American economic policy, it was a bit intimidating to think that I would be standing and speaking to an audience in this same room. I finally decided to accept the offer, though, and to see it as an opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts. Those of you who know me know that I've been working on a book since Hector was a pup. and which I've titled Accidental Anchorwoman, a memoir of chance, choice, and change. I was talking to Hugh back in the green room about this, talking about how the writing of this book has been a journey and why I speak of it so often, because it surprised me in so many ways in what I am learning as I'm working on this writing project, what I'm learning about myself as an individual, what I'm learning about my family, what I'm learning about the history of Black people in America, and it has made the process longer and much deeper than I anticipated. Chance, choice, and change. I want you to note those words and think about them on your own. I've been giving a great deal of thought to those words, and it seems to me that chance, choice, and change is really what life is constantly giving us. Our chances often come to us out of the blue as things that we did not expect, nor did we plan. Like me, for instance, a secretary in 1967 being tapped to sit in for a striking anchorwoman. What are the odds of that? Sometimes chance brings us opportunities in work, in relationship, in illness, in aging. The possibilities of choice are endless. Of chance are endless. And choices, we make choices in every moment. And in fact, you made the choice to be here this evening, and you're sitting there now making choices about whether to continue listening to what I have to say or daydream and go off into thinking about something else. Like, I wonder if they have any more of those hors d'oeuvres left out in the lobby. We make choices every moment, and choices come in all sizes and shapes. Think about it. From the time we get up in the morning, we're choosing. We choose whether or not to get up when the alarm clock rings, or should we hit the snooze button? Should we eat breakfast or skip it? Simple things that we often do automatically, choosing without thinking. And then there are the big choices, whether to have that knee replacement surgery or put it off and hope for the best, whether to get married and have children or stay single and childless. The fact is, we never not make a choice. We may not like the choices that present themselves to us, but we do choose just the same. And then change. The wisest among us tell us that life is nothing but change. Change in our own immediate environment, the way we think, the way we feel, change in our physical selves, and change all around us. Segregation is the law of the land, then integration. Enemies we go to war against and then become friends with whom we have treaties and trade. Chance, choice, and change. As I see it, these are the threads that constantly interweave and create the tapestry of our lives. As a fifth grader at Allen Elementary School back in Akron, Ohio, I had a teacher named Mrs. Lewis, a white woman with gray hair and a wooden leg. One summer afternoon, she had the class read something. I don't remember what we read or the question that she asked about the reading when we had finished it. I raised my hand, and Mrs. Lewis responded to the answer that I gave by saying, "Melba, you've got a good mind." Then a long pause. When you use it. Was that a compliment or what? I was never sure, and I still am not even to this day. But what I am sure of is that Mrs. Lewis planted a seed. She let me know that I had choices, that I did not always have to leave my choices up to other folks. Fast forward to April 1963. A choice I made got me published for the first time. Not a book, but a letter that I wrote to the New York Herald Tribune. It was a harsh letter criticizing the newspaper's national correspondent, a man named Robert S. Byrd, for a series that he was writing. The series was titled 10 Negroes, and it was supposed to be a powerful, provocative look at the Negroes of the time. Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam's founder, James Narbut, Howard University's president, and Martin Luther King were the first three interviewees. What's this, I wondered, as I read those first three interviews. In my letter, I asked that very question, and basically, I told Robert Byrd, the correspondent, that he had missed the boat with his series. To my surprise, he asked, after he got the letter, if he could publish it and if he could send a photographer around to my apartment in Harlem to take my picture. Now, why I was disappointed was, I said to Mr. Byrd, what is all this with the big shots? How about everyday people? I thought you were investigating what life is like for everyday black people in America in 1963. Well, both my letter and my picture were published in Mr. Byrd's wrap-up of that series, and beneath my picture in the letter was the headline, "An Angry Woman." I tell this story not so much about my choice to write that letter, but about how working on that series changed the reporter. Robert Byrd admitted that it was only in doing those interviews that he realized he regarded Negroes as Americans, but not full Americans. He saw Negroes as Americans who had to earn their citizenship. In other words, the series had been an awakening for the reporter. He had changed, and perhaps his reporting had changed some of his readers. In 1977, as Hwesu mentioned, on a fellowship at the University of Michigan, I co-directed a conference on minorities and media. We called it Kerner Plus 10, referencing the 10th year since the Kerner Commission report. And if you've never read it, and if you've never heard of it, I suggest that you get a copy of it, find it somewhere, and read it. Because if you read it now, you would think that this was a report about what is going on today, because it describes so much of what is happening in 2015 in Ferguson and Baltimore and Staten Island. Robert Maynard, the first black publisher of a major mainstream newspaper, the Oakland Tribune, gave the conference keynote at Kerner Plus 10. And something that he said that remains with me to this day, that was 1977, the year of the conference. He said, and he was quoting another journalist, but he said it at this conference, quote, "It is the responsibility of the daily newspaper that its readers not be surprised by events." I'm going to say that again. It's the responsibility of the daily newspaper that its readers not be surprised by events. Maynard went on to say, "Few newspaper readers could say that the urban events of the 1960s came as anything but a sudden and searing shock." Readers, viewers, listeners, social media people are still being surprised by events in 2015. Chance, choice, and change. Why do I want to call attention to these threads? Because personally, I find them quite fascinating, how they interweave and shape our lives. And I also call attention to this thinking on my part about chance, choice, and change, because I think that to the degree that we give attention to these threads, they will keep us as individuals. And well, Rosemary Armstrong was in the first or the second group of people to graduate from Empire State College. She is the person who, back in the days of word processors, I first heard about Empire State College. She was writing a paper one afternoon when I happened to visit her, and she told me about this college, and I didn't really act on the information until perhaps 2 decades later. Rosemary is somebody that I think Empire State College would do well to bring into the fold to share with all kinds of students her own journey. She went on from Empire State College to become one of the first people I ever knew who joined the Peace Corps, became fluent in French, served our country in North Africa, lived for a while in the Côte d'Ivoire, and then went on to live in Paris. And it was while she was living in Paris, I was working at WABC-TV, and Howard Weinberg, Howard, would you just stand for a moment, was a producer. That was too quick. Howard and I were both working for WABC-TV. We were fortunate enough to be working on a series called Profiles, and it was so fabulous. We had an opportunity to really cast a light on these, what I call these everyday people, the people who make things happen, the people that keep things working. And we just did all kinds of interviews, and one of them was Rosemary. That was my first trip to Europe. Rosemary was living in Paris, and I did, with Howard, a profile of Rosemary called An American in Paris, and it was really, really beautiful. Some of the others that we did, Ted Keel, the man responsible for all the billboards in Times Square, Monty the sanitation man, Roger Littlehorn, working on steel scaffolding for New York skyscrapers, Mary Alice Eureka. We were trying to demonstrate with this New Jersey housewife the reality of the feminist rhetoric about one aspect of women having children and returning to work. It was just a fabulous opportunity for the both of us. Unfortunately, cigarette advertising was banned on television, and that was the end of the funding for the Profile series. Howard is a journalist of the first rank. He went on from WABC to work with Bill Moyers, the CBS Morning Show. I don't know all the things that he's done, teaching journalism at Columbia University and working now on a passion that is about public TV. TV Lab is the name of it, and a profile, kind of a part of that with the video artist Nam June Paik. Now, Howard, when he saw me in the lobby, he says, I hope we live long enough to see that memoir that you've been talking about for so long. So I'm about that memoir. He's way ahead of me in his documentary, but look for it, and look for his name as well. Also, sitting next to Howard is Marquita Poole Eckert, who was at WABC around the same time as after Hwesu, or before Hwesu? BH or before, okay. Could you let people see you? You need to know these people. I know I'm probably embarrassing them a bit, but you need to know them because when we talk about history, we talk about bold-faced names. We don't talk about the people who are behind the scenes or on top of the tanks or wherever the hell they are, making things really happen. Like Marquita was a producer at WABC-TV, and I was trying to Shanghai her away from like it is to have her work with me as a producer. Maybe this was after Howard left, and I remember the first thing we tried to do together was an interview with George Balanchine. And we came back, and I started writing the piece, and Marquita looked at it, and she says, we're not writing poetry. Something like that. But anyway, it was a pretty stern criticism. She went on to work for Dan Rather, be a producer on the Dan Rather Show, CBS Sunday morning, and she is one of the most connected people to the art scene in New York that you could ever meet. We were just at the reception earlier, and she's on is it the Education Committee? Shout it out loud. I'm black and I'm proud. No, what? Shout that out loud. The Committee on Education for the Museum of Modern Art. Now, white people and black people need to get on over to the Museum of Modern Art to know something about our history and about the Great Migration. which is the Jacob Lawrence exhibit, and it is really fantastic. Now, do you hear about Marquita? But it's people like Marquita that make those things happen, serving on committees and having input. And this is not about some BS about diversity. It's about people who know what the heck they're doing, and they know what needs to be expressed, and they know how to put programs together, raise money, and bring people together. The Jacob Lawrence exhibit is one of the most fascinating things. And then along with Isabel Wilkerson's book, The Warmth of Other Suns, it is really another way of viewing our history, to know how 6 million black people over that span of time from just after the World War into the 1970s moved from the South and into the North. It affected everything about the United States. Thank you, Marquita, so much for that kind of work that you do on a consistent basis. I had expected a man named Albert Primo and his wife Rosina to be here this evening. They said they would be here, but I don't think they're here. I know they're not, otherwise he would be all over the place. But Al Primo was the grandfather, is the grandfather of Eyewitness News, for better or worse, whatever you think about Eyewitness News. Anyway, Al Primo was the news director when I was taken off the air in 1971 for changing my hair to a natural. It was just too natural. They took me off the air. We have since made all kinds of amends about it and everything, but what I wanted people to know about Al Primo, 50 years ago, he created Eyewitness News, and it was first in Philadelphia and then brought to New York. But it was under his news directorship that I had an opportunity to do things that were what Eyewitness News was all about. That's to show the reporter on the scene, to do stories for looking from the inside, looking and taking a different perspective, putting up a new lens. And a couple of things that Primo did was to, for instance, send me to cover the Yankees and the Mets in spring training, sent me to Los Angeles to cover the Oscars on a really historic occasion when both Cicely Tyson and Diana Ross were nominated for Best Actress. Interview them in New York, go follow them in Hollywood, and do piece and come back on the red eye and try to get this story together, being scared as hell that I wouldn't be able to make it. Anyway, he's not here. Dr. Hugh Hammett here. You don't want to stand up, huh? Okay, please do. Hugh is well known to anyone connected with Empire State College. For me, he is Mr. Empire State College. What I've learned from this man is that giving back is not just a matter of having a lot of money and writing a big check. He showed me the way to give back when you don't have a lot of money, but he showed me that there are other ways, and he showed me how to do it, bringing me aboard the ESC Foundation Board. And with his wit and his grace, his charm, his humor, he's just magnificent. And Empire State College owes him so much. He's been the Mr. Go-To when positions have been vacated and they needed somebody, put in Hugh. They need the person for this, here's Hugh. Somebody to do this, here's Hugh. I don't know, he had so many hats that I don't know how he knew which one to put on when he got up in the morning, but I am just so thrilled to call him my friend. Thank you, Hugh. Hans Tietz and Brigida Lewis are here. Hans and Brigida. Hans is a long time friend, and as well was his late companion, Jean Hovis. They have taught me so much about home, a wonderful four-letter word and what it can mean and how to make your home your sacred place. I'm so grateful for that. Brigida, I had this wild idea to put together a pilot for a program on aging. The pilot didn't go anywhere. The pilot aged, actually, and nobody was interested. But she was really a star of that and very, very helpful. Thank you, Brigida. Lenny Godfrey and Carl Lee, are they still here or did they have to go? Oh, okay, you're sitting right in front of the lights were a bit blinding. Stand up, Lenny and Carl. They're Mr. and Mrs. And you will know Lenny from Broadway. She's a singer, actress, director, was in Hubie, I'm getting the H's and the E's mixed up, and in television programs that all of you have seen. We are so fortunate in Pennsylvania, in the Lehigh Valley, to have these two people who are really pioneering an effort to revamp and revitalize the arts and culture scene. Maybe you all should talk to Marquita in the Lehigh Valley. And Lenny is going to be singing in January with the Allentown Symphony Orchestra. So if you're out that way, come and see her. And finally, Michelle Martin. I'm meeting Michelle for the first time tonight, although we have corresponded by magazine and by letter. Michelle was interviewed for Washingtonian magazine, and in the magazine piece, she said that she saw me on television when she was 9 years old, and all these people were so young, and I'm so old, you know, but she was 9 years old. She saw this woman on television with The Natural, and her mother had made an appointment for her to go to the hairdresser. She went to the hairdresser and came home with a fro. Her mother said, "Oh, my Lord Jesus, what's happened to my child?" Her mother wasn't that crazy about that look. But anyway, Michelle has stuck with it. She has gone on to have a fabulous career as a journalist. You've seen her on Nightline, Ted Koppel. To me, you outshone him, but that's my opinion. She has been a print journalist for the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post. Most recently, she was the creator and host of Tell Me More. And the show has been canceled, but she's going to be doing a lot more. And she saw me at 9, she was 9 years old, and I saw her, I don't know how old I was, on Koppel, and I just was grinning from ear to ear, and I just said, wow, look at her. That's what I want to be like when I grow up. She was so poised, so confident, and so brilliant. Michelle, thank you so much for coming here tonight, really. And that's it. Thank you all. Thank you all for being so patient. I want you to know these people because when you honor me, which you are, the Black Male Initiative, Empire State College, you honor these folks because these are the people who made me have the opportunities and to learn and to become who I am. So you owe them. Please try to talk to them before they leave tonight, too. Thank you.